Good morning, everybody. I'm Muriel Bowser. I'm the mayor of Washington, D.C. We are in the John A. Wilson building, and it's our city hall. I'm joined by the chief of police, who you'll hear from shortly, Assistant Chief of Police Jeffrey Carroll, Deputy Mayor for Public Safety Lindsay Appiah, and the City Administrator Kevin Donahue. I want to begin by thanking the Metropolitan Police Department for their efforts over the past 2 weeks to keep students in the campus of GW stay safe. MPD has maintained a presence at GW throughout these protests, and that presence has allowed for an informed and effective response. I also want to thank the broader DC community. As tensions have escalated on campuses across our country, our community has been measured with our words and actions, and we have demonstrated and upheld our values and constitutional responsibilities. I want to be clear that our responses to demonstrations is always rooted in public safety and constitutional responsibility. And the chief and her team are the experts in public safety and always have the final word on how our resources are deployed. MPD, as you know, you've heard me say, is the best in the business at keeping people safe during the exercise of First Amendment demonstrations. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to MPD for a statement and to take your questions. Chief Smith.
Thank you, Mayor Bowser. Good morning. I'm Pamela Smith, Chief of Police of the Metropolitan Police Department. Let me first by saying the District of Columbia and Metropolitan Police Department support individuals peacefully exercising their First Amendment rights. But as the Chief of Police, I need to be and am always guided by public safety. This space has been no different, where I have been constantly reviewing information and intelligence to be able to make sound decisions about the George Washington University protests based on policing and public safety. Since the start of the encampment on GW's campus on April 25th, the Metropolitan Police Department has been supporting GW in assessing and monitoring the First Amendment activities. They began very peacefully. But over the past few days, we began to see an escalation in the volatility of the protests at GW. This started last Thursday when a GW campus police officer was pushed by protesters and an item was grabbed out of the police officer's hand during the performance of her duties. On Monday, MPD learned of more indicators that the protest was becoming more volatile and less stable. This included a simple assault reported to GW police, security probing of a GW building, indicators that counter-demonstrators were covertly in the encampment, and information that protesters from other schools were traveling to GW. In addition, items that could potentially be used for offensive and defensive weapons were being gathered. All of this led to my discussion and conclusion that we needed to change our posture. I briefed Mayor Bowser on Monday, and we began preparing for last night. Our plan included giving warnings, multiple warnings, and clear direction to people inside the encampment to disperse the area. We allowed protesters ample time to leave the area. In total, there were 6 dispersal announcements before our officers took action. Many complied and left the encampment area. Those who did not comply were arrested. A total of 33 arrests were made this morning for charges including unlawful entry, which is often called trespassing in other jurisdictions, and an assault on a police officer. As the encampment was being cleared, additional protesters arrived outside of our perimeter. These individuals engaged our officers at 20th Street and Pennsylvania Avenue. Our officers did deploy pepper spray, and some of the 33 arrests were made at that location. Moving forward, MPD will continue to be supportive of universities or other private entities who need assistance. Before I close, I would like to thank the men and women of the Metropolitan Police Department for their professionalism this morning and the service that they've provided to the community over the past 13 days. I'll turn it over to Mayor Bowser now.
Any questions for the chief? If you could just introduce yourself, please, and your outlet.
I'm Grace Cannon. You said you went through the specific incidents, and those were a marked change from the previous protests.
That's correct.
So you decided Monday you were going to be specific?
After, based on what I just shared with you, after the intelligence, the information that was shared with us, and the series of events that I just articulated, we made a decision on Monday after other things were also revealed to us that was happening inside of the encampment to move forward with clearing the encampment this morning.
And did you notify the school beforehand?
We did. Yes, sir. Hi, Tom. Good morning.
I'm sorry, we politics out. I know it's early, but have you had time to determine how many of the 33 arrests are students?
They're still being processed at this time, so we do not know that. But what I will do, Tom, as soon as we get that information, we will share it publicly. Yes, sir.
Chief.
Sure. Let me start here, and then I'll get with you, Peter. Yes, sir.
Good morning, Joseph Omo with NBC Washington. What happens next here? We talked to several protesters who said that they intend to come back in even a bigger form. What happens next?
Well, as you know, here in the District of Columbia, we allow individuals to exercise their First Amendment activity. In this particular location where there's private property, we will not allow them to encamp in that space anymore. As you know, I think you know that we're the best in the business when it comes to crowd management, and we will follow our protocols with respect to that.
So no more protests on the campus of GW?
I cannot tell you. That's the president's decision to determine if she will allow protests in other areas of the campus. But as of the area that we have now secured, there will be no protest in that area. Peter?
Chief, very quickly, you mentioned one APO arrest. Are there multiple APO arrests? Or?
There were, for this morning, there were multiple APO arrests.
APO.
That is correct. Inside the quad this morning, there was one arrest for assault on a police officer, and then outside of the perimeter around 20th and Pennsylvania Avenue, there were other arrests specifically due to assault on a police officer.
Quad altogether?
No, there were 29 arrests inside of 30, actually, with the one that assaulted the police officer, but 29 were charged with unlawful entry.
3 APOs and 29 unlawful entries.
Yeah, something like that. If you're mad, not mad, don't mad all the time. Sir?
Any injuries?
No serious injuries to any of our officers. We do not determine at this time that there were any serious injuries to anyone within the public. Obviously, we did deploy some pepper spray, but other than that, we don't have any additional information regarding injuries.
Citation arrests or?
Citation arrests, that is correct.
Arrests?
Yes, that is correct.
Even APOs for citation arrests?
Not the.
They're still being processed.
They're still being processed, Peter. Sorry about that. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Jennifer with the GW Hatchet. Did the timing of the oversight hearing committee meeting today have anything to do with the clearing? I don't want to plan to speak at the meeting.
It did not. All of the decisions that I've made is based on public safety.
Are you still speaking today at the
I had the opportunity to speak with Chairman Comer this morning, and he expressed his interest in making sure the city and the chief could focus on this ongoing operation. I expect that hearing will be pulled down. Yes, and then let me get to somebody who hasn't had a chance yet. Yeah. Yep.
Can you walk through again just the gradual escalation of volatility? What were the elements of that? What's the number?
Well, those were the elements. You want to go over them again? Okay.
Sure. Good afternoon. Good morning. I'm Jeffrey Carroll, the Executive Assistant Chief of the Metropolitan Police Department. As the Mayor and Chief Smith indicated, over the entire encampment period, we've been working very closely with the George Washington University Police Department. And what we've seen is an escalation that really occurred as we moved into Monday, with several incidents that occurred being reported to us either through the GW University Police Department or from observations that we saw ourselves. Some of those things include, as the Chief mentioned, the assault on the GW police officer, where they took an item from the police officer, and then they also assault the officer. We also observe indicators within the encampment that would alert us that potentially they're gathering weapons, improvised weapons, and things like that that's there. Additionally, we had reporting that individuals were probing buildings on campus with the potential to try to enter those locations, and there was actually some individuals yesterday on Tuesday that were located inside of a university facility that were not supposed to be there. So again, all these different things that came together, the indicators that we have, taking the intelligence that we had, and also what we learned from other universities, some of these indicators continue to raise the concern from the Metropolitan Police Department, and that's what really caused us to change our posture to ensure that we can maintain the safety not only for the demonstrators that are there in the encampment, the students at the university, but also the community as well.
So Chief, were they trying to take over one of the university buildings, 1 and 2? Were any weapons found at all?
Sure. So right now, the George Washington University, they are still going through the encampment. The intents are still there, and they're working through that to remove them as they are on private property. We do know there was at least 2 probing attempts where individuals were seen in one instance casing around the university building. In a second instance, as I indicated, there were 2 individuals that were unauthorized that were located inside of the university, and that was informed to us by the George Washington University Police Department. So again, those are all very concerning indicators, especially what we have observed that has occurred at other universities that necessitate us to take action.
Chief, you talked about the arrest and the charges. With these students arrested and charged to the fullest extent of the law?
They'll be charged with the appropriate charge, the unlawful entry charge or the assault on the police officer charge, just like any individual here in the District of Columbia. If they are eligible for citation or release, they will be released on that method. If not, they will appear in front of court with that. And of course, all of those decisions will be made by the United States Attorney's Office as those charges are underneath their purview.
Can you talk about pattern demonstrators?
One second, please. Instead of waiting till, a lot of people say you waited till the wee hours of the morning to go in and that it was an ambush attack. Why not go in on Monday when the decision was made?
Sure. So a couple things. Obviously, I'm not going to get into specific tactics of how we respond. However, as we indicated, we do have to take all the information that we have, take that and to evaluate that. Additionally, we have to make sure that we have the appropriate resources, plans in place and coordination before we respond and take action for the safety of everyone involved. If you don't have the appropriate resources and plans in place, then that's not a good situation. That's not some situation we want to put the students in or we want to put our police officers in.
Chief, you talked about counter demonstrators kind of moving into the camp as well. I just want to be clear, does that mean you fought people that were not necessarily aligned with the profile sitting inside, but also moving into the encampment and potentially getting ready to cause more I guess, volatility there?
We had received some information that individuals that had been in other universities had potentially come to George Washington University. There were some postings out there with that. Additionally, we had counter-protesters, some that came through and that were known to be counter-protesters that were assaulted. That assault was reported to the George Washington University Police Department, who relayed that assault to us on Monday morning. Additionally, there were messages that were left inside of the encampment that alerted us that there was covert counter-demonstrators that had been within that area as well. Yes, ma'am.
It's not uncommon for college students in D.C. to support other college students in protest. Did you have any indication that these students that were coming from other campuses were outside of the DMV?
We did. The post I'm referencing did have indications that students that were, or I shouldn't say students, individuals that were at Columbia University were coming to George Washington and may have actually already been there. Yes, ma'am.
Can you give us a number on how many officers responded for this morning, and then also moving forward the use of pepper spray this morning as well?
Sure. So obviously we don't talk specific numbers of officers or tactics that we get into with that, but obviously again we evaluate what we have and we try to mitigate risk in the best way we can by deployment of resources, officers, using all kinds of information and intelligence that's out there with that. As far as the deployment of pepper spray, that was done in response to the assaults on the police officers that occurred. So it was not done to disperse any groups. It was the individuals who were assaulting the officer, and it was done to stop that assault and make the arrest related to that.
And that was 3 individuals.
Yes, the information I have this time was 3 individuals there was 3 uses of pepper spray that were there.
Just to clarify, when you say they were assaulting police officers, they were trying to push through that barricade of lights that they had?
Yeah, so initially they were trying to break through that barricade there to get to the other individuals that had been arrested, and then eventually there were some punches that were thrown at the officers as they were trying to break through there, as officers were trying to stop that. And we began to reinforce that area there, but again, they tried to continue to assault to get to those other folks that had earlier been arrested.
Can you have information that these were not students, these were outside groups that came in their altercation?
So right now, the individuals are still being processed. So one of the things that we'll look at is once we have the full information and confirm their identities, we will coordinate with the university to determine if they are students or if they are not students. So we'll have that information. As Chief Smith indicated, we'll release that once we have that.
How long does D.C. police plan to maintain a presence out there and any barricades? As we saw that there were some barricades down.
Sure. So at this point right now, we're maintaining a presence there as the university still has to get equipment in there to remove all the tents and the things that are there. The university does have some plans of what they're going to do in that yard area. We're going to continue to support them until those operations are there. Again, even after that, we'll continue to periodically check in. Obviously, we have a lot of other things that we have to do across the city, but we do support our universities, and we'll continue to be in communication with the Chief Tate and the GW University Police Department.
Have you been briefed on commencement that's coming up, or you would maintain presence through your commencement?
Sure. So again, we're not going to get into specific tactics. We have been in conversations, though, with not only GW University, but the universities within the National Capital Region, not only the Metropolitan Police Department, but the other law enforcement agencies. So obviously, it's one of the things that we are continuing to evaluate as we move closer to that time frame.
I have a question for Mayor Bowser. Have you spoken at all today to President Ellen Granberg at GW? Or
I haven't.
last night?
I haven't, no.
Okay. Do you plan on speaking with her about everything that's happened over the past couple of hours?
We're always speaking to, we've been in constant contact with GW throughout this process. Yes.
Did you say earlier that you expected the Oversight Committee hearing to be postponed?
I expect it to be pulled down. Congressman Comer indicated that he thought our energy today should be on our ongoing operations. I agreed. Yes.
So, what are your thoughts as far as sentiments among students that Israel protests that are in support of the Israel side are getting more support than protests that are for pro-Palestinian causes? What are your sentiments around that, and how do you go, as far as protecting free speech, even with the safety?
Yes, so MPD's response to First Amendment demonstration is apolitical. It is without regard to one side or the other, and it's focused on public safety. Any other questions? All right, thank you, everybody.